Good evening. My name is Latoya Moses, and I will be presenting the CLC Service Project presentation. Um, the team members are Edith Lara, Austin Grant, myself, Latoya Moses, and Matthew Hicks. So here's a quote by Robert Greenleaf that says, "The difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant. First, to make sure that other people's highest priority needs are being served. The best test and difficult to administer is, do those served grow as persons? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? And what is the effect on the least privileged in society? Will they benefit or at least not be further deprived?" So, the group that I was in, or that I'm in, we chose to uh, serve with Volunteers of America. And Volunteers of America is an organization that helps 1.5 million people every year. This organization provides a variety of services to individuals who are in need. The service that our group will focus on is assisting homeless people. We decided that this is a perfect example of service leadership. According to Robert Greenleaf's take on servant leadership, a servant leader possesses 10 principles that prioritizes the growth and well-being of a team. So the principles of servant leadership that we will zoom into the most is listening, empathy, and healing. So, upon identifying all of the principles of servant leadership while serving with Volunteers of America, we noticed that listening, empathy, and healing was like three of the biggest parts in serving um, this group of individuals, right? Um, so these specific skills are what we use to influence others while serving. Each member of the team served with Volunteers of America for 3 consecutive weekends for 4.5 hours, assisting the homeless. So identified as drop-in centers, the team served individuals who were reluctant to leave the streets and accept emergency shelter or transitional housing by operating with staff to make sure food, toiletries, and beds were available to the homeless individuals. So I must say that this was um, a really impactful experience, right? Um, just seeing how many people are actually suffering from homelessness, especially during these times when we're in a pandemic and people have lost jobs, they've lost their homes. It's just like so much going on. So this was a very impactful experience. All right, so listening is considered service, right? One skill of servant leadership is being able to listen to others. The team had the opportunity to listen to the stories of how clients ended up homeless. The stories were heart wrenching. When we were able to listen to them, not only with our ears, but we actually listened to them with our hearts. Um, Many of the individuals felt hopeless. They, didn't know where to turn. Um, they felt that they were going to be judged. They didn't know actually how to um, get the help that they needed, right? Um, so if we look at John 3 and 17, it says, "For God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but to serve the world through him." And that pretty much means that, you know, God didn't send his son to um, be like, "Oh, you did something wrong. You're always doing something wrong." Or, "Well, how did you end up in this situation? How did you end up in this predicament?" So if we are going to consider ourselves as servant leaders, and myself as a Christian, if I want to follow in Jesus's footsteps, I cannot be judgmental and criticize or condemn someone for being in an unfortunate situation, right? So, yeah, so it's just being able to listen to their stories and, being um, just understanding about their stories um, is a way of showing service. Empathy is also service. Empathy is crucial when interacting with others. Our experience with the homeless allowed us to show empathy by genuinely understanding how each individual was feeling in a non judgmental way. Our goal was not to criticize the individuals, but rather offer support and solutions to their situations. So I realized that a lot of times um, people can be quick to judge, right? Or they can be quick to have a comment or a response to someone else's situation. But um, a servant leader does the opposite of that, right? A servant leader listens. A servant leader puts themselves in the other person's shoes. A servant leader um, provides resources and the tools that the person needs to, help them get out of their situation. And some of the significant takeaways, I feel like I put these slides in the wrong spot. So what I'm going to do is fix that now. All right. So we also mentioned that healing is a service and healing brings change and inclusion, right? So when you are um, interacting with others, it is important to be mindful of what you say, what you do, how you make them feel, right? Because if you are if you have the mindset of servanthood, you of course want to bring healing to the individual situation, right? And in that healing will bring about a change within the individual, um mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, and in this case physically. The individuals were homeless, and this program or this service put these individuals in a space where they were able to, or made it available for them to get transitional housing. Um, and when I mention inclusion, that's pretty much that no one is excluded, right? Everyone is a part of this change. Everyone can be a part of this change, right? So our next slide just mentions more about Volunteers of America and how they support in housing. Um, and this is definitely um, a service that individuals and families are impacted tremendously by, right? Many of them share stories about how Volunteers of America changed their lives, right? Being that Volunteers of America changed their lives and provided them with the tools and the resources, they are now able to, spread the word and give someone else a sense of hope, right? Someone else that's experiencing the same thing that they've gone through, they're able to say, Volunteers of America helped me, and this is what I did. This is how I got through it. Um, And some of the significant takeaways that we had after this experience was the exposure to how many people actually experience homelessness in their lifetime, which is a sad reality, right? We realized that those who are in need also have the heart to serve others. Um, we realize that we are so blessed to have food and shelter, and sometimes we take those things for granted. Servant leadership and volunteering go hand in hand. A leader should promote and display servant leadership within an organization. We also decided that, even though it's displayed in the organization, that this should carry out further, whereas the organization is serving the community, right, and focusing on the needs that the community has. So that's pretty much the end of the presentation. This was definitely a great experience. Please forgive me for the noise that's in my background. I have a 7-year-old daughter. And she's playing with the dog. And my husband is actually home as well. So um, that's what that is. But thank you again for this opportunity, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.